Hey everyone, welcome to Taste Different Gaming Appetizers. And what are we talking about this time? Square-Enix is reportedly overhauling how it's making its games. Before we get into this episode is brought to you by Mog's Reliable Chocobos. Come down and get yourself a new Chocobo today and tell them Cloud sent you. All right. So Square-Enix is reportedly going to significantly overhaul how it's making its games following flat sales despite the release of a mainline Final Fantasy game being Final Fantasy 16 that came out. According to Bloomberg, Square-Enix director and president Takashi Kiro told analysts this week that the company's new structure would be announced in spring of 2024 and put in place in time for the start of April, and aims to improve the quality of the company's games. In this financial results of the 9 months ending in December of 2023, Square Enix sales were essentially flat. Their sales from digital entertainment business actually went down 4.7%. The Final Fantasy exclusive, or the PlayStation 5 exclusive Final Fantasy 16 sold 3 million copies during its launch week. And that sparked some debate online on whether it met Square Enix sales targets. The publisher, Square Enix, told IGN in July of 2023 that the sales of Final Fantasy 16 were extremely strong and insisted the game had sold well relative to the PS5 install base. Sources familiar with the performance of Final Fantasy 16 confirmed sales had slowed considerably since launch, but the game was not yet considered a disaster. Of course, Square Enix put out 2 paid DLCs, right? The first paid DLC is already out, and then the next one's coming out, I think, in the summer or something like that. And they confirmed a PC port, which is officially in development. The second DLC is coming out in the spring, so. Square Enix said that the falling sales and profits of their digital entertainment business were due in part to declines in MMO Final Fantasy 14 and mobile and PC browser sales, as well as increased development costs and advertising spend. They did not mention anything about Final Fantasy 16 as far as its sales performance. It'll be interesting to see what they mean by significantly overhauling their games. I don't know exactly what they're going to do about that, or what route they're going to go in. I mean, we'll learn more in the spring, and I'm sure we'll talk about it if it's significant enough. But, I think Final Fantasy 16 I thought was a pretty good game. I enjoyed it. The only problem I had with Final Fantasy 16 is they could have called it anything. Right. Besides the fanfare portions of the game, it really didn't feel like a Final Fantasy. It felt like a great adventure, action RPG adventure game, but they could have called it whatever, and I would have never known the difference without the fanfare. Like they took the fanfare out and they just made the game, and I played it. I wouldn't have thought, oh, this is like Final Fantasy. It just didn't have that Final Fantasy feel to it, even though the game was pretty good in the most part, right? There was some redundancy with the combat and stuff like that, but the Aeon battles, or the power battles or summons battles, whatever you want to call them, those battles were really cool. The story was really good. Voice acting, graphics were really nice. All that stuff was really good. It just didn't feel like a traditional or even a more modern Final Fantasy game. It just felt like it's a completely different thing, right? And I think that kind of hurt them as far as that goes. And I also think just putting it out on PlayStation 5 hurt them. I think it would have been better for Square Enix to put it out on everything. Not Switch necessarily, but I mean like PS5, Xbox, and PC. I don't think they could have put this game out on Switch, but they could have put it out on those 3, and their sales probably would have been a lot better. Because I know a lot of gamers, especially like reading online, a lot of gamers were waiting for it to come to PC, right? And still are. They are going to put out a PC release, but a lot of there's a lot of gamers out there that are just PC only, right? And that's where they play all their games. And so or Xbox only, and you're really you're shooting yourself in the foot, Square Enix, by just putting your game out on only one device. As far as Final Fantasy 14 goes, I mean, that's every MMO has dips and rises. When Dawn Trail comes out, that game's popularity will spike like crazy until that dies out. Like every new expansion for an MMO, for Final Fantasy or WoW or whatever, they all go through that same thing. I think the mobile market is seeing, I mean, for Square Enix, it is seeing a hit. Square Enix's mobile games have really not taken off. They've released a lot of mobile games, but they never seem to stick around. They had that Final Fantasy VII one, which ended up closing down, like not the one they still have out there, but the first Soldier one, which was like the Battle Royale one that they put out on mobile. That lasted like a year, maybe, before it shut down. They do have the Final Fantasy, was it Ever Crisis or something like that? That one's still going on. And then Bravada, whatever the hell it's called, I can't remember, but that one's still going on. But I I don't know. I don't know if the mobile market is seeing some sort of, not as much fervor in the mobile market nowadays as it used to be. I don't really know. I don't follow the mobile market that closely. So you got those heavy hitters out there like Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail and stuff like that. But, is any other mobile game really taken off besides those? Right. And then those are on PC as well. So, that they're probably getting some influx of PC players that are just primarily playing it on the PC instead of the mobile, right? And I don't know if they count those the same, right? I'm not sure on that, but I think it'll be. I don't know. We'll go around and see what you guys think. What do you guys think that Square Enix should do or is going to do, or how do you think they can turn this boat around as far as their sales falling flat? What do you think they need to do to turn the tides? So let's go around and see what everybody thinks about this and what their opinions are on what Square Enix needs to do. Pat, what about you, buddy? We'll start with you. What do you think Square Enix needs to do with this?
First of all, I wish they would tell us what the hell overhauling means, because they really didn't say anything what it means. Does that mean we're going to pump out more low quality games faster? Or are we going to take our time and do more AAA type games? I mean, I don't know. To me, and not all these are their games, right? But they need to stop doing live service games. Nobody wants it. Everybody's railing against it. And they obviously can't do them, in my opinion, very well. But, the last big bomb one wasn't really theirs, right? Babylon's Fall or whatever, that was Platinum, but they published it, right? Yeah, Square Enix published. But I mean, really, what have they put out that's just like, I can't believe they're calling Final Fantasy 16 a failure. I don't think that was a failure. It was a good game. It was a good, and I agree with you. Nothing of it really seemed Final Fantasy-esque except for the big, like, Titan Primal Battle, whatever. I always forget what they call them, like Ifrit and all them, and but those were even a departure from the normal style. You actually played as Ifrit and and stuff and all the different and I'm like, this is cool. Like, who doesn't want to play Ifrit roller skating? It's just a weird combat thing, but it was cool and it was different. And I'm like, okay, I like this. I was used to, before Final Fantasy 15, not counting online, the 14 online, but before Final Fantasy 15, everything being turn-based combat. And 15 took some getting used to, but I really liked 15. It was like a good departure, in my opinion. But I think Square Enix needs new IPs, but they might be a little bit gun shy now, right? What was the one that came out that we reviewed? Was Forspoken there? So they just publish it.
I think they just published that one.
Okay. They've had some really bad luck with publishing games, right? Like we mentioned, Babylon's Fall. They probably lost their ass in that one. They probably lost their ass in the Forspoken one, even because they front all the money for that work, and then they recoup. They get basically first dollar that comes in until it's paid off plus whatever they agree on. So I mean, they just keep doing the same games over and over without really a new IP. I think a new IP for them, a breath of fresh air with their storytelling abilities. Like, what I wouldn't give to see them do a sci-fi story, right? Get out of the fantasy world, do an actual sci-fi style space or something, I think they just need to not necessarily reinvent themselves, but get out of their comfort zone in their genre and make a new IP. I mean, if they come out with a Final Fantasy 17, I'm going to try it. They haven't lost me in that one. And we got Rebirth coming up here soon. So the first part of the Final Fantasy VII remake was amazing. So I'm expecting no less from this one. So those sales will come back from that. But I don't know how they're claiming that these games are failure. I mean, are they financially not making up the money that they're dumping into them? That's what I'd want to know. Like, did it cost $5 million or $30 million to make Final Fantasy 16? And how much did they make over that? And if they only made $5 million in profit, are they considering that a loss? Because I'd be like, I'd love to make $5 million on top of a game, on top of for my profits of a game. But for them, maybe that's not sustainable. I don't know. But I really would like to know what they mean by this. Does it mean more lower quality games quicker, or less games, more focused on quality less often? Do we get a game from them? I'll be honest, I think that they're already doing the higher quality, less often games. So how are they going to make money, right? If they're only making 5 million every 2 or 3 years,
according to the Googles. According to the internets, and the internet's never wrong, but Final Fantasy 16 cost $300 million to make and only grossed $84 million in its first week.
That's how much overall, though, right?
Right. But in 3 months, or no, in the first month, what did I say before? In the first months, they sold.
They're up to
3 million copies. Yeah. They sold 3 million copies during launch week. So in the first week, they made 84 million. So, and then of course, over time, I don't know. I mean, of course, sales are going to drop from that point on. So,
right. Like, what are their actual sales numbers is what I would like to know to date. Like, if they recoup that 300 million, that's a lot. That seems like a lot to make a video game, That's expensive.
Now,
I'm a little flabbergasted by that. But because that's like more than a lot of blockbuster movies cost to make, and they have like actors and set and I don't know, man. $300 million. I mean, maybe, I don't know. The game was good, but it wasn't like the best Final Fantasy game out there, right? So I don't know, man. I kind of feel like they need to come up with a new IP, something new, something fresh with their storytelling abilities. They need to do exactly what you said: multi-console release, multi-platform release, not just console, but PC, PlayStation, Xbox, all simultaneous. Maybe if Switch has eventually one day they have a streaming game service, you can then play it on their day one, through their streaming service. But I mean, I think any company that's going to limit itself on one console is going to have a problem. Yeah. Unless you're just making like banger games 24/7 and that's all you put out, you've got no chance in hell of making it almost. I mean, Sony and Microsoft, they can do that because they can take a hit, and it really isn't going to matter if they don't put out a bomb hit, But Sony's first party games are almost always like a damn good hit game. They've got the formula down, but they're always the same like concept, right? It's a first party game that's single player focused, story focused, not multiplayer and all this. So they've got a formula down and it works for them. Microsoft, not so much. They put out a lot of, I think they've been sliding on their first party stuff before they started making all these purchases. Like Halo, in my opinion, Infinite was a far cry from what Halo used to be, right? I thought the new Gears of War that came out was one of the better Gears of War, but it wasn't the best to me. So I don't think these third party studios, without the financial backing of their, like Sony and Microsoft didn't have the financial backing of their parent company, they wouldn't have made it like this. But them as an independent third party studio, they need to just basically whore it out to everybody. Stop making exclusives. Stop taking the meager payout that you think is going to get you where you need to be to put it on only one console and then suffer the consequences of it. But that's just my opinion. Shane, what do you think, man? What do you think they mean when they're saying they're overhauling their game development process? And what do you think it's going to take to dig Square-Enix out of this hole they've dug themselves into?
Well, what they mean is when they say we're doing this to our investors, what they mean is we ain't got a damn clue. Plain and simple. Now, Pat, you are wrong. They do various other games. Now they have Splatoon coming out. Oh, sorry, Foam Stars coming out here soon. So that's a new IP. It's new. It's different. Nobody's ever done anything like that one before, ever. Jesus. And then they obviously have their Dragon Quest and Final Fantasies, but they are bringing back Visions of Mana. So that series is coming back now. Whether or not they do with the crap, that's a different story. But let's cross our fingers. And then they have some more. I'm just looking at their list here because they do have games coming out or have been out that honestly I'm not even sure I've ever heard of. Saga Emerald Beyond. I've not heard of that one. Now that one's coming out this year, and it's another RPG. I mean, it's Square-Enix. They are RPG. Used to be RPG masters. Little goody two shoes. I mean, there's just Live Alive. We all like that one. I mean, we all like to live alive. So they do various other things, but they all fall in that same realm. The only one that I brought up that was not in their typical kind of repertoire was the Foam Stars game, which seems really like an odd choice and a bad choice for them to make. But it is what it is. So when they say all this gobbledygook about we're going to fix things, we're going to streamline, we're going to shave the back, it typically is just political garbage for we're going to have to pull something out of our butts, plain and simple. To fix Square-Enix, I think it's going to have to be a mishmash of AAA and indie. They need to publish smaller indie titles that fall into their repertoire. There's lots of indie RPGs out there. They could work with that and then still create their mass games like Final Fantasy and whatnot. Final Fantasy 16 to me, I absolutely agree, did not feel like Final Fantasy. 15 was a pretty big jump for Final Fantasy, but it still felt like Final Fantasy to me, except for the Aeon stuff. I didn't really like how they or Aeon, I can't remember what they called them in 15. Aeon, Guardian, big guys. I don't remember what they called them, but that's the only thing I didn't feel Final Fantasy about it, because you really didn't have that control like you did in the former games, which is fine. They always mix it up. They always change gameplay. They always change characters. They always change, certain things. But Final Fantasy has key things that make it Final Fantasy. One of them is the Aeon, the Guardians, whatever you want to call them. And then you got to have Sid. There's just certain staples you got to have to make a Final Fantasy game.
Well, 16 had a Sid, so I guess it's there.
Yeah, but
and you had Aeons, but they didn't call them Aeons, did they?
Yeah, no, I can't remember what they called them. Power-ups or what the hell they called them.
I think they were just primals on that one, right?
Yeah, I think that's right. But that game just did not feel Final Fantasy. Now, it was a great game overall, though. It wasn't what we were. It wasn't if they'd said, this is a Primal Kingdom. Okay, cool. I wouldn't have had the mindset of Final Fantasy playing it, jumping into it. Wouldn't have happened. But to fix Square-Enix, they have to have a balance of getting games out and keeping quality. So I think to do that, you need to split it up: AAA, indie. Concentrating AAA, publish some indie games. Because there's a lot of good indie games out there. Nick gets us, into these things all the time. So I think they could do that. Live Alive was a fantastic game. I don't think they designed that one. I think they just published, but I can't remember. So I think they got to gotta balance. They really just gotta find that balance, and they gotta quit making stupid moves like Foam Stars. Used to be Square-Enix, okay, RPG of quality coming up. They still make quality RPGs, but are they keeping up with the times? Are they keeping up with what people want, how people want it? Not to mention, I don't have 120 hours put into a game anymore. None of us do. Now, I don't know about younger generations, if they're into the RPGs, surely they've got 120 hours. But for me, a 60-hour RPG would be just fine. That's mainline story stuff. That's not all the, side missions and whatnot. So I think it's going to have to just come down to balance. Balancing what they want to do and what they need to do. What they need to do is make money. What they want to do is make good games. They got to be able to balance those two to work. And so I think it's independent games or indie games and the AAA. I think they got to find a way to balance that. Now, if I was at the Sony board, I would definitely smack whoever came up with Splatoon, Foam Stars, and tell them, look, do what Capcom did. Capcom did something that was completely out of their realm with Dragon's Dogma. They do need to experiment. Now, I don't know what kind of money they put into the original, but I'm betting they're dropping some heavy dimes into the Dragon Dogma 2. So, you got to experiment. Take some money that you've earned over the last 5 years and, throw it into an experimental project, kind of test the waters with things, see what happens. But that's how I fix it. And I'd put the soft back in Squaresoft.
You don't want to go back to just Square?
Just S. Square. Screw it all.
I don't know. I think that they do try to do enough. I don't know. I hate to say it, but some of what they try to do is indie, and this is their own doing on development. Is like Octopath, an Octopath Traveler 2.
But that's I didn't play 2, but the first one was really good.
The second one was just a rehash of the first one. I felt it wasn't. It was just more of the same to me, and that's what they get into, in my opinion. I don't know what you thought, Nick. You probably played a lot more of Octopath Traveler 2 than I did, but I thought 2 was just a rehashing of 1.
I own it. I just never played it.
So, but yeah, I don't know. So is it to publish more indie stuff? Because in my opinion, publishing is a huge risk, right? If the company that you're publishing a game for doesn't come through, then you're kind of SOL. You're writing it off.
Yeah. But that's where you have to test those things. So let's say Nick comes to you, you're a publisher. Nick comes to you and say, here's my game about big booty ninjas and, futuristic samurai world, gives you the spiel. Not just you play it, but let 20, 30 various other people play it, get those ideals. All right. Yeah, I think it was fantastic. If half of them loved it, the other half thought it was garbage. That's a 50-50 risk. But if, half of them loved it and the other half said, yeah, this has got a lot of promise,
I don't think that's how it works. I think a lot of times
it's not how it works. I know it's not how it works.
I don't think a developer comes to a publisher with a playable game. It's more like, here's my idea on paper for a game. I need you to fund it.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Well, because that's where you have to read the ideal and funnel a little money. Give me a demo. Bring me a pebble worth of gameplay so I can have an ideal.
To get something from paper to a playable demo is probably, on the indie sphere, it's depending on what it is. It could be hundreds, thousands, or whatever. I don't know what they're putting into it.
Could be dollars. I don't know. But I'm just saying you have to be able to. You have to be able. Me personally, I would look at the concept and then say, okay, just like a movie. Okay, you bring me the script. I like the script. Okay, I want you to give me 10 minutes of footage, film to show me what your concept's visually going to look like. Because you can only imagine so much when you read paper. That's why Playboy went out of business. They got rid of the pictures. Nobody could really understand the paper. It's a terrible analogy, but that's what it is. You got to be able to visualize what you're wanting. So
I think I'll be honest with you, I think a lot of indie developers are better off without publishing arms. I think publishers get in the way.
I can definitely agree with that.
I honestly see Square Enix getting involved, especially with their money problems right now, with any indie developer spells disaster, because then they're going to take over the project and be like, well, we want you to do this, we want you to do that. So publish your stuff on self-publish on ID at Xbox, and even Steam has the Greenlight program, and I think Epic even has something. I can't remember what they call theirs, but everybody's got something for indie developers to publish games, self-publish, where you don't have to go through a publisher. But if you need money and capital to hire staff, then I guess you're screwed. You got to go to a publisher, because then that's the only way to get. But I don't know. I think Square Enix needs to go back to developing their own stuff, focus on that more than publishing, but focus on making new titles. It's because before long we have Octopath Traveler 3 and a Final Fantasy 27 and a Dragon Quest 49. It's going to be just like, and I'm like, all right, come on, let's get something new. Harvestella was interesting concept, but that's something that somebody's already done, and I didn't get to play much Harvestella, but it just felt like a little bit of a slog what I did get to play. It's probably because you can play Harvestella with friends, right? Can't you, Nick? I never did play it. No, it's only single player. Harvestella might have been a better game than if we could play it with your friends like you can Stardew Valley and stuff like that. So, but I don't know. I don't want them to go anywhere. I love their games, but their games are just kind of becoming a flat line of, you've already done this, to, hey, this is safe, let's keep doing this because it's safe. Are they going to be our next Ubisoft? I hope not.
Well, I think and maybe, and this is not for Square Enix specifically, but for a lot of game developers, the big developers out there, I'm wondering if maybe less focus on the AAA experience, right? Not every game, or even most games, need to be AAA, because and I feel like we tried to define AAA, and that was really kind of hard to define as exactly what the hell AAA means. Is it just the cost that you put into it, or is it the amount of content in a game, or how big the world is, or is it a variety of all these things? Is it voice acting versus text? What is it that makes a game considered AAA? I would assume it's the price tag. The higher the price tag, the more it's considered a AAA game. But again, I've said this about a lot of things, and this also goes into gaming as well. It goes into a lot of things, right? It doesn't matter how much money you spend on developing something, developing a game, a movie, I don't know, book or whatever project it is. You could put unlimited funds into something, but if it sucks, no one's going to play it, no matter how much money you put into it. So the amount of money you put into something, into these projects, doesn't have that big of a influence, I don't feel, on whether or not it's going to be successful or not, right? And I feel like a lot of these big publishers and big developers have that mindset that the more money we throw at it, the better it's going to be, and the more successful it's going to be, when really that's not the case. And maybe Square Enix in this case is kind of seeing that. Maybe they need to pull the reins back on their AAA. Everything's got to be AAA, right? We got to put $300 million into a game, because they're not seeing the returns. So like, really, there's really no point investing in it. But again, it doesn't matter if you spend, $12 developing a game, or $300 million developing a game. If the game is good, people are going to play it. If the game sucks, you could put as much dollar amount that you want onto it, but if it sucks, it sucks. No one's going to play it. No one's going to put any time into it, right? And Square Enix has seen that quite a bit, especially with, like you guys, like Pat was saying, with their publishing side of things. They also publish, live service for sure is one thing that they needed to stop. I mean, Marvel Avengers was one they published, right? They didn't develop it, but they published it. And they're as far as live service goes, they cannot handle that. So I think they need to get back to like simplicity. I would like to see them create something new, but maybe they need to stop I want them to branch out and try new things, but at the same time, it's like quit trying to do so many things at once. Maybe kind of streamline things and keep it simple, right? And just develop something fun, because the money will come if you develop something people want to play. But if you're trying to follow trends, or, like Foam Stars, that one just came out. It is available to play on PlayStation. But it's basically Splatoon. It's Square Enix's version of Splatoon. And so, is it going to live up to Splatoon? Splatoon is a really popular game on Nintendo, but I would imagine the people that play or want to play Splatoon have already played it or are playing it currently, right? So it's like, are people going to, I just don't feel like Square Enix is going to pull those players away to start playing Foam Stars, right? It's kind of the same contradiction that a lot of developers when it comes to like trying to pull players away from Fortnite, or trying to pull players away from World of Warcraft with another MMO that's a WoW killer, right? It never gets them pulled off of it. Those WoW players may go and play that game and check it out, but they always come back to the source, right? They always come back for more. So it's like, you're just not going to pull them away from it. So just start developing new stuff, new ideas. Like Shane said, Capcom does that, and sometimes their ideas pan out, and sometimes we get Exoprimal. So, you just don't know. Sometimes they just don't work out, but at least they try, right? And that's got to give them some credit for at least trying something.
Well, I think that's hurt them the most is the whole live service chasing that they're doing. Because I mean, while they didn't develop Marvel Avengers, they owned Crystal Dynamics, who developed it, so they lost their ass on that one, and then they sold them to Embracer Group shortly after that debacle of a failed live service game. So I mean, and they didn't develop Babylon's Fall. That was Platinum Games. So I mean, I don't know. I think that stop chasing a live service. If something comes up organic and it happens to be a live service game and it's a great game, cool, whatever. But I think the gaming industry as a whole, every time anybody hears live service game, there's like a collective like sigh, and then a collective like fuck. Anytime anybody hears this game that's coming out as a live service, it's a collective just going. So I stop chasing the live service, stop chasing the PUBG and Fortnite money, and just do your own thing.
Yeah. Instead of chasing the fads, create the fads. I mean, live service, when it first, came out, I mean, a few people were able to create something, and everybody else created crap. Everybody else died off. And it's not because the products were bad. It was too late when a lot of people, decided to jump in that pool. It's like, well, we don't need you. We have all these other. That's why they're live, because they just continue. You're never going to dethrone Fortnite. I think Fortnite is going to be a staple forever. I think it's like, wow, it's there now. It's a part of life. Deal with it. So quit trying to chase those fads. Now, before we go, I do want to point out, I know the ultimate fix for Square Enix, Final Fantasy VIII Remake. Put that out there.
Did you see that article where the director or the producer of Final Fantasy VIII said it would take too much to recreate it? It would take too long or something like that.
Well, get off your ass.
Yeah, it's like, what was that one? I can't remember. We read one that talked about recreating. Maybe it was Final Fantasy VIII or something. It said it would take like 10 years to recreate this game, and we were all talking about it as friends here. For anybody watching, and I said, well, they better start working now.
That doesn't make a damn bit of sense. They put out game after game, and it doesn't have to be, freaking Uncharted levels, Last of Us levels of creation. Final Fantasy VII Remake is, besides the 900% filler, is a fantastic game, and it's done well.
Hating always.
It's so much filler.
This is your Beyond Good and Evil 2. This is Shane's Beyond Good and Evil 2. And I know how to fix their troubles. Close your doors and reopen up as cubed. They went for squared, now it's cubed.
Yes.
Do a Final Fantasy 14. Just let the comet take you out, and then rise
reborn.
from the ashes
It's cubed reborn,
like a phoenix.
Reborn.
like a phoenix down.
Yeah.
Just
Then
throw
when
it
you rename in the future, you got Cubed Enix to show like some past, and then Cubed Square. You know, you're good to go for quite a while.
Yep. Final Fantasy 8 creators, just name yourselves that shit. But nope. They've got. They're not in the realm of Ubisoft troubles yet, but I think when they sold all that stuff to Embracer Group, that's probably what's holding them on, because they've made a lot of bad financial decisions up to that point, and they sold a bunch of stuff. So, which stuff we'll never get back because Embracer Group sucks balls, and they cancel or fire all their developers. So
They're the new EA. Embracer Group's the new EA.
Yeah,
where developers go to die.
Sadly,
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I agree with you guys. I mean, they need to stop following trends, need to stop following fads, right? Battle royales were that way. I mean, there's still some battle royales that are popular, but like I said, any new battle royale that tries to hit the market has a tough time, right? And I think nowadays, with battle royale or even live service, I think, like Pat said, a lot of gamers out there do that collective sigh when they hear those words, because they just don't care about those anymore. Those were popular at the time, but that popularity has waned on the gaming community. They don't care about live service. They don't care about battle royale, right? There's just some genres that people just don't care about because, unfortunately, the market got flooded with these things, and it got so flooded that it burnt gamers out so quick on them that you couldn't have battle royales and live services kind of carry on throughout the years, because developers saw how, they saw the dollar signs, and they decided to flood the market with that stuff. And then it burnt gamers out incredibly quickly. So I'm the same way. When I hear live service or I hear battle royale, I'm just like, ugh. That's one thing. We reviewed Suicide Squad, and while we liked the game and stuff, one thing I wish it was not is a live service. even though the game is pretty good and we enjoyed it, that's one aspect of the game I'm like still going, why has it got to be a live service, right? I mean, it was fine on its own. They could put some DLC and add some stuff to it, and I'll be okay with it. And we can, they could put out some story missions that, some DLC with story missions and some new characters or something, and we play it with my friends and co-op through it all, and that's the end of it, right? We don't need to ride this gravy train till the end of time. And that's what sucks about it too, because like I said during the review of Suicide Squad, more than likely this is the only thing Rocksteady is going to be working on for the foreseeable future, right? They're not probably going to have a separate spun off team making something different while they continue to do this. And they will do that once the game goes into maintenance mode. But until then, this is all they're going to be developing. So it's like, do you want more Suicide Squad for the next 10 years? And people go, no. Because more than likely the community, even though the game was good, more than likely the community for this game, I don't think this game is going to have the staying power, right? It doesn't have the player numbers. I mean, Pat brought this up in the review. It doesn't have the player numbers even now, even to compare with other live service games. And even at the release of this game, the player numbers were pretty low. Grand Blue Fantasy Relink, which came out around the same time, had higher player numbers than this does. Right? It was like Steam's second or third highest played game for the month, right? And Suicide Squad was like down on the list pretty far, and I don't think it's gone up since then. So, Rocksteady as well as Square-Enix and stuff like that, and all these other developers trying to follow these trends. And this is just what happens. So for Square-Enix, stop following trends. Just start making stuff on your own. Don't worry about the fads and the trends and making triple, quadruple A games and crap like that. Just make something fun that your community, your community of gamers and new gamers are going to like and enjoy, and that money will come, right? If you start putting out some really quality products, it doesn't matter the cost, as long as they're good and they're fun and they're great to play, then the players will come and they will play and buy your products. But if you keep making mediocre shit, well, then that's just going to sway them to go somewhere else, right?
If you don't make shit, they will come.
That's right. That's right. You guys got anything else you want to say on this?
Final Fantasy VIII remake. Anybody? I don't know if I have 10 years, but I'm waiting.
I think the one that they were talking about that would take 10 years because the developer did say, or the director or something did say that it was like basically impossible to make Final Fantasy VIII remake. But they also talked about remaking 6, and 6 would take like 10 years to remake it for something like that.
That makes no sense though. Why is 7 different than 8? Shut up, Pat. I can hear your brain going. Because 7, 8, 9. No. But I don't understand. We're working on Final Fantasy 7 Part 2 remake, integrated, whatever the hell they want to call it.
Rebirth.
So Rebirth, yeah. So the first remake came out, what, 2 years ago? 3? It's been a bit. So that's not 10. Why is it they can do it with 10 or 7 and not 8 or even 6?
Yeah. Why not remake 6?
Shut up.
Came out in 2020 of April 10th of 2020. So yeah, it's been almost 4 years. 4 years in April, right?
So they can make 2 Final Fantasy filler games in 4 years, or well, probably 4 years for the first part. They were probably working on this part too, but I don't know. It's probably because I just want it so bad. That's why I'm pissed. But anyway,
you'll probably never get it. Or make a new Parasite Eve.
Yes.
Square. That's your real name.
Damn it, Square.
Do something, or give that franchise to somebody else to do something. I don't know. Fucking do something with it. Anyway, that's just the nostalgia in me. You guys got anything else you want to add?
Nope, you ruined my evening.
All right. Well, let us know down in the comments below. What do you think? What do you think Square-Enix should do to reinvent themselves, to overhaul their games? They're going to let us know in April, but let us know down in the comments what you think they should do. What do you think they're doing wrong, and what do you think they could do to correct that? Other than that, thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure to like the video. Make sure to subscribe if you're not already. Help us out. Do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the bell notifications to stay up to date with new videos that we do all the time, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.